Good morning. Today is the 30th of April, 2024. We are going to be chatting with KrisSchram. He's a former McDonnell Douglas Boeing employee, and he is now an executive at a engineering slash construction firm, and he resides in Florida, state of Florida. So it's 8 a.m. our time and 11 a.m. his time. Avila Beach, Central Coast, beautiful area.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Chris, good morning.
Good morning. Unfortunately, I'm having to do this on my iPhone because my laptop is having a couple of issues. Can you see me okay?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, let me see what's going on here. I had to download Zoom because we use Teams, so I haven't used Zoom in a couple of years. So
Sorry
let
about
me,
that.
nah, it's all right, man. I'm trying to figure out, how about now? How the heck do I get the video on this thing or the audio?
Well, audio's good, but your video.
Oh, okay, here we go. Let me see if that works.
Oh, something's happening.
Something is going on. I'm not sure you're gonna like what you see, but it might be happening.
That's okay.
It's not gonna be pretty.
There it is. There you are.
There you go.
Looking good, brother.
Well, I'm still vertical, so that's good.
Yes, sir. It's
So
good to see you, Chris,
yeah,
I
good to
thank you
see.
so much for volunteering to help out on this.
Yeah, man, of course. I think it's a pretty good cause, and I'll before we get too terribly started, I'll show you this terrible view that we have to look at.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. It
It
looks
wait.
like it looks like you're in a fancy resort.
Uh, well, um, it doesn't feel like work because I work from here a lot, but I'll show you the Gulf of Mexico, how close we are. Hang on here. So I'm walking out of the house, and there's my new boat actually. Can you see that?
Yeah, beautiful.
And then
Wow.
if you look over, do you see the opening of that water out there?
Yes.
That's actually the opening of the Gulf. And
No
this is kind
kidding.
of a yeah, this is kind of a little channel. And then over there is St. Petersburg and downtown Tampa Bay. And it's about 80 freaking 5 degrees out right now. It's already hot, so I'm going back in the house. But so
Beautiful.
that's
Just amazing. What city are you in?
I'm in it's the city of Tampa. Well, it's Apollo Beach is really the name of the city, and
Upon the beach.
we're about south of Tampa around 30 miles. So you
Okay.
fly into Tampa Bay and head south towards Sarasota. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Yes.
but yeah, we're pretty close to Sarasota, so we're kind of in between the both. But yeah,
Wow, looks gorgeous down there.
yeah, it is really really nice. It's beautiful. It's the beaches, the water is. As a matter of fact, I was just out on the boat. I was in Miami all week on business last week, and then I took the boat out, and then I was in California for a week, and I've been on the road for the last month, and I hadn't been out on the boat, and I got the boat out. Hence the little sunburn here. Um, yes,
Looking like you're a surfer, man.
uh, well, looking like more of a melanoma patient, um, but was out on the water Sunday with the family, and the water temp was like 82, which is pretty darn nice
Wow.
for
Wow.
April. So, but so anyway, well, good to see you. Good to talk to you. Obviously, it was great to see you at that little Boeing get together that Ali put together and everything. And even though I didn't last the whole time of the Boeing career, I sure loved the company, and I sure loved what I did there, man. Working on the flight ramp and working with customers, delivering planes and stuff was a definitely one of the highlights of my career. Um, but I'm glad you stuck it out in 40 years, right?
Yeah, a little over 40 actually. Yeah, well, I had 38. I had 38 and I got laid off from Huntington Beach. And then I was off for about a year and a half and I had a lot of extra time. So I said, I offered to go back on contract. So I went back on contract in Long Beach doing
Yeah.
C-17 support, mostly supply chain type stuff, parts issues and and doing root cause corrective action on that stuff. And then they hired me back for a couple of years. So altogether, about 43. So yeah,
Oh.
that's long enough.
And then I heard you got to do a little double dipping.
I did. Yes, yes. Uh,
That's great for the bank account.
yeah, yeah. I was so fortunate. I was, because I was getting my pension, I was actually getting Social Security, and I was getting paid. So I was like, wow, this is really
Oh
good.
my.
Yeah,
So how old are you?
I'm 69.
You're I was gonna say, why are you getting Social Security so young, but you're
Well,
not.
thanks.
You look great.
Well,
That's a
thanks.
compliment.
Thanks,
I
Chris.
was
I
like,
appreciate
what?
that.
So you waited till like 67 to get social.
Yes, yes.
Oh, good, smart man. Wow, that's more money than you make when you're working.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got a pretty good hit on my taxes, but that's okay. I
Oh,
mean, that's God bless America, right?
yeah, Mike Morash told me the same thing. He goes, you know how Mike is, he's really chill. He goes, you know what, brother? I'm making more money than when I was working. I go, oh, I go, that's a beautiful thing. I go, you know what? I'm really the only reason I'm still working is because I have a daughter that's going to UCSB and
Nice,
getting ready to
nice.
graduate. And then I have a younger daughter in high school, and I'm still paying child support on for another 2 years,
Right.
which I get along with my ex perfect, which makes it seamless. But
Yes.
I figured I want to put in 2 more years, and that's going to be probably pretty good for me
Yeah.
because I have properties in Cali that are bringing in income, and
No, beautiful.
if you own homes in California and you have substantial equity in them,
Yes.
plus 401ks and a little pensions here and there, it's going to be okay. But unfortunately, I won't be able to collect. I'm 61, so
Just a
I'm
kid.
I'm just a baby. So I have to, and I'm not going to collect. I want to try to. I mean, it all. There's so many equations. I mean, health being one of them. How is your health? My health is great. So I want to try to last to 67. I mean, they probably make it 70 by that time, but who knows? You know, they're always changing the rules. But
Well, you have some flexibility there. You could go 2 more years and see how you feel and see,
yeah,
but it's nice to have the flexibility. You can bounce out at any time, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah. So
So
I guess so. You're going to take charge. We have what? Do we have about 30 or 40 minutes? Is that what we need?
we have about a half hour. Yeah.
Okay,
And
let's.
that and they time us on the Zoom. We only have so long. So
Okay.
but that is that okay?
Yeah, actually, it's
Okay.
perfect because I really literally have a bunch of work to do, but I committed to doing this, and I'm going to stick to my commitments, and we'll get this done. And then if there's other follow up stuff you need or want to call, you got my number, so that's all I
Yes,
need to
yes,
do.
sir. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Thank you for carving out the time, Chris. Really appreciate that.
of
So
course.
the first part that the students would like to hear about is like how did you decide on a career in aerospace or manufacturing? How did that happen for you?
That's a very easy answer. I went to 2 years of college out of high school, and that was I was going to be a machinist because I loved working on hot rods and engines and stuff. And then I finished that, and I still didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, so I went into the Navy. And when I was in the Navy, I learned all. I was an aircraft mechanic. So I learned all about aircraft and flight deck and troubleshooting. I quickly got every qualification I could possibly get, including my A&P license and my FCC license and my radar license. I did all that in like 3 years' time in the Navy. And
Wow.
then I realized, and I loved working on aircraft. So then I realized that I wanted to make a lot more money than staying in the military. So I had applied for I don't know if you this will really date me and us. Um, I applied for an airline in San Diego called PSA.
Right,
Um, and
right.
and I and I applied for McDonnell Douglas and I applied for General Dynamics because I out of San Diego because I had my AMP and all this and I was an engine operator and I taxied and I had all this stuff. I basically got offers at every one of them.
Wow.
So I just had decided after kind of carefully selecting that I was going to go to work for McDonnell Douglas. So I moved north 100 miles from from Coronado to Long Beach and started working for McDonnell Douglas as a inspector, mechanical inspector. In probably departments you might remember, 510.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that over in
That
like building 12 or
yes, 13.
okay. 13,
Building
13 next door.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, they did the fuse joints. You had 506, 510, 5, gosh, 11, 505. I mean, they were all different join departments. So I basically did all the I was an inspector for like 6 months, and I was a young kid. And at that time, they had all these mechanical inspectors that were, 30 plus years. So I was just a baby, but I
Yeah.
worked my butt off. I was the one that volunteered to do everything. So they made me a section manager like 6 months later. So then
Wow.
I was running all these old people. But I mean, and they were all union. So I don't know. It worked out pretty good because I think most of them knew I was a really hard worker. So they respected that and worked well with them, and then just kind of worked my way up from there. But that's how I got into aerospace.
That's amazing. So when you were over in 510, did you ever work with Corey Chow?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I just had a chat with Corey yesterday.
Yeah, Corey Chow, I think was one of the structural engineers, I think, wasn't he?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been a long, long time. That's actually been nine shoot. I believe 1987.
87. Okay.
Yeah.
Were you working twin jet or tri-jet?
I was working MD-80. I was working twin jet. Yeah, at that
Okay.
time, I
Okay.
I, I did a little MD-11, DC-10, MD-11 too, but most of a good portion of my career was twin jet. Yeah.
So you were, man, you were prepared. You got all the quals, you had your A&P. They loved you, they brought you in, and boom, 6 months later they promote you. And now you're
Yes.
probably making what at that time what was good money. So you were happy with that. So
Yeah.
what happened after that? Where'd you go after that?
So I did that for a few years as a section manager. Um, and then where did I go after that? Then I ended up being a brand. I ended up going over to Final for a little while, which was across the street, obviously, where I did inspection. I think I was working for Kevin St. Dennis at the time, doing uh, doing like a branch manager of QA for quite a while, some years, and then they kind of had been trying to get me to go to production. So finally, Mary Wolf, if you remember some of these people,
Yes, yes.
Mary Wolf and Mike Alexander, I'm trying to remember all these damn people. Mike Alexander, Mike Graziato,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and who's that other guy? Tom Mulligan.
yeah.
And there's another guy there that was always the leader. Damn it, I can't remember his freaking name right now.
Well,
But
you've done really well so far. You're getting an A.
yes, yeah, well, yeah. Um, oh, there's another guy. Shoot, he was always like a director. He was always on his phone when they had those old big huge phones. He was one of the pioneers of that, and I just can't remember his name. He was like a director or VP, and I can't remember his name. But anyways,
Could it have been like not let's see, Mike Marino or
yeah,
Jack
it was
Handy?
Mike Marino. That's
Mike Marino.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It was Mike
Yeah.
Marino had recognized my QC and the ability. I worked really well with all the manufacturing guys. So, and in a QC role, you kind of have to determine, what, because you're dealing with squawks that many times can't get fixed, and so you have to
Yes.
either get engineering involved or you have to make a decision what's best for the company and whether, if is it a safety of flight issue, if obviously if it is, it's an engineering issue, that kind of thing. But they said, hey, how would you like to be a senior manager of production? And I was like, well, okay. So I ended up getting promoted to senior manager of, because they had restructured everything when they did the TQMS. They had branch manager, section manager, they have section manager, branch manager, manager, director. They had all those levels. And then when they did TQMS, they just had manager, senior manager, director, VP, that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So I did the senior manager, and I ran all of interiors, and I ran um some of the fueling and some of the final assembly stuff. Um for Mike Alexander actually was the boss at that time. I did that and did exceptionally well. That was when Mike Marino had these matrix in place, like, because everything then was about rate. Um, what is your rate? How far are you behind? How much did you spend on overtime? Cost and rate really were the important things then, and quality, of course. And they had all of us competing against each other, and you'd get certain points for certain things. And when I took over, I was like second to the bottom. And I remember always like fighting with Wayne Fontana to try to be first in, and I ended up getting our department like first in production, first in this, first in that overall ranking of first, which was, I don't know. He got us into this kind of competitive mode, which I think was pretty brilliant of Mike Marino to do that, with some little rewards here and there to, hey, you're the top performer of all our final assembly teams, because there would be a team of, the landing gear team, there would be the nose gear team because the nose was done over there in final. There would be the rollout, there would be interiors fell under that group, and then there would be all the rigging and the fuel and all the stuff done in the pressure pit. Does all that sound familiar?
Yes, all of it.
I'm surprised I'm remembering all this stuff, to be quite honest with you. But because it
Yeah,
was a long time ago. But
yes.
so anyways, I did that, and then I pretty much excelled at that. And then that's when Rick Eads and the team asked me, hey, would you like to come out to the ramp? So I went out to the flight ramp and absolutely freaking loved that, man. I worked with the clients, I did all the deliveries with them. Very stressful, but in a good way, schedule driven.
Hmm.
Go do the PFPM, come back, right, get stacks of 100 or 200 SISs or CISs. And then we'd go, oh my God, we have a week to, any reflies, we have to get them through. And then customers would come in and pick the plane apart and write 400 or 500 squawks. And we go through and get an army of people and fix them in a matter of days to therefore present to the customer, which is what I did, and then be prepared to deliver the plane. And in many cases, I actually went on the delivery flights with the clients to deliver them. Like a lot of the foreign clients, I went overseas and delivered the planes with them, which was immensely fun and very rewarding.
Wow.
Built some good, yeah. So I did that, and then right about then is when Boeing was gonna be purchasing McDonnell Douglas. Um, so obviously some of those product lines started shrinking and kind of just went to the MD-95, which ended up being the 717. And then everything kind of shifted over to, as the commercial product uh, was phasing out into Boeing, um, it all kind of phased into the military AC-17, which I ended up going over there, and I ran the ramp. I went back into a QA role for paint shop and for the flight ramp, um, and I think that's kind of where things didn't go so well for me, because I got really, really bored. And I don't
Right.
know, I kind of have to have a lot on my plate. So, and I didn't get along with Joe. What is that guy's goddamn last name?
Maltese.
No, no, no. I liked Maltese. He was okay. Little short Joe that ran the flight ramp.
Oh, Lombardo.
Not him either. Um, shit. He was a friend of Steve. That was ended up being like a senior VP. He was the flight ramp manager for C-17. You don't know who I'm talking about? Joe,
Oh, yes, I do.
starts with a
Yeah,
B.
Joe. Uh, um, I know who you're talking about.
Short, little,
Yeah,
stubby
Joe. Yeah, shoot, I'm Burgess.
Burgess.
Yes,
You know what? I had,
I
uh,
butted heads with him too.
I have to be honest with you. I had such a well-oiled machine out there because my inspectors loved me. And I mean, honestly, I had Mike, I had Ali, I had Wright, I had all those guys, and they did anything for me. And I had a super good relationships with the pilots because they were our customers. And I think honestly, Joe Burgess just absolutely hated that I would get him down to zero squawks, and he didn't like the fact that I had such a good relationship, and he just didn't like me in general. I really don't know why to this date, because all I ever had was the company's best interest. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
I
he, yeah, so he booted me off there, and I ended up going. Mike King hired me. I love Mike King. Hired me to do this like QA processing position, working for Dan Tulkin. And to be honest with you, I just found myself not enjoying it at all, and therefore wandering off and not really staying very focused on doing that kind of work because it just wasn't anything that I was any good at or like. I mean, my part was the people part, making things happen,
yeah.
uh, schedule driven, dealing with client issues, dealing with people issues, motivating the people, not writing procedures and things like that. That's just not my cup of tea. So I found myself doing things I probably shouldn't have, and they didn't like that too much. So off I went.
Uh,
um,
well,
and
yeah,
and
that
and
I can completely understand it. I know when I ended on my tour of duty on the ramp in QA, I also butted heads with Joe. Uh,
yeah,
I didn't get booted off, but it came close, you know.
yeah.
Uh, but,
Well, I mean, I went to bat. They had terminated me, and I had 18 years, and I'm not afraid to talk about it because I know I made a mistake too. I mean, I was bored. They had me in the wrong position, man. They should have had me in front of the clients or running a high performance team. That's what I did good at. Um,
right, right.
they had me doing something different that I just wasn't good at, and I just found myself like, off going to the gym and doing other things that I shouldn't have been doing. So I'm the first to admit, hey, I shouldn't have been doing that, and I got caught, and I mean, I didn't do anything malicious, like I didn't steal or do anything crazy. I just wasn't on the job doing what I didn't want to do. so
Right.
so they said goodbye. So I went through a little arbitration, and they said, okay, come on back. We'll hire you. And we're going to hire you in Huntington Beach to do something else that I would have been terrible at. So, so that's when I just completely changed. I said, no, I'm not going to take that. So I kind of ended up like quitting. I got a little small severance for lack of better explanation. And then that's when I went into completely different thing. My neighbor worked for BP, British Petroleum Oil and Gas.
Yes.
And he said, hey, Chris, and by this time I had my degree and some stuff. And he said, hey, Chris, how would you like to come work for BP? And I said, man, I don't know the first thing about oil and gas. He goes, well, you got a degree, you got leadership, you're a hard worker, you can learn. I go, huh, okay, I'll try. So I interviewed, I took a test. It was like a day and a half, 2 days worth of testing, and, and scored high, and got in to do another day or so of collaborative interviews, and then I got picked for the job. And so then um, I got picked as like a manager for operations, and quickly went up to like a senior manager, and then basically a director level, working around oil and gas, working around production, around operations, around processes. but I was on the product, so I loved it.
That's cool.
So
No, so British Petroleum, so were they doing refineries or?
yes, yeah,
Oh, super. Okay.
yeah, oil and gas. They're taking oil, crude oil, and to simplify things, they were making petroleum. And to make petroleum out of crude oil, they have to further process all the nitrogen and all the sodium and salt products um, of out of the oil in order, and then therefore byproducts are propane, diesel, polys, which make all your plastics and all your polyesters and all that thing, stove oil. There's all sorts of different byproducts of oil and gas. So that was like, dude, honestly, that was like going to college for another 3 freaking years learning all about that, because that was really cool learning how the chemical side of fuels and fossil fuels work. So
That's
I
amazing. So it strikes me, Chris, isn't it amazing? And I'm the same way. When I was little, my dad was into hot rods, and so we got into hot rods. We go to car shows, and your initial interest in becoming a machinist because you like cars and hot rods and stuff like that. And isn't it incredible that here you are? You've had this amazing career. You didn't build parts for cars. You didn't build cars. You were building airplanes and flying them and delivering them. Isn't that
yeah
incredible?
yeah
Your
oh
your
I,
dreams, your dreams were small, but man, they got you launched like a rocket, right?
I loved it, and I absolutely loved. I was intrigued by large things that could do what these things did.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved being around people. I mean, honestly, Tim, people had told me, and if I knew now what I knew then, people told me years ago, they go, man, you ought to be in sales. I mean, you know the product, you ought to be working with these clients selling it. And man, dude, I am doing that now. I am in sales now, and I'm killing it. I mean, really, honestly, I'm doing $100 million projects and details with $10 billion companies, and it's a blast. I mean, because I get very excited about it, and I learn what our clients' needs are and how do we become a really good solution provider. And all that is as a result of just working with people throughout my career at Boeing and doing the same thing at BP, and some of it's, genetic, just my upbringing of having brothers and sisters and being more of an extrovert than an introvert. But yeah, so I mean,
So is that what you're
I
working on now? Are you doing refineries, selling
no,
refineries? Oh, okay.
no, I'm working for a company called the Wood Group. We're about a $7 billion company doing EPC, which is engineering, procurement, and construction. So we are we're doing all the service, and um, we're doing construction for, like, we build big boilers, like power generation boilers, like Southern California Edison. We might build a whole big gas plant for them, or like West Rock Pulp and Paper or International Paper or new steel companies. All heavy industrial construction is what I do. And I was the executive VP for a couple of different companies, and now I'm kind of like an executive for business development. So I just travel around to all these companies and places that I know of that have opportunities and they have projects coming, and I go figure out how to align with them to see if we're a good fit to execute these projects, whether it's in a construction management role, like taking the lead and then subcontracting out certain pieces of it, whether it's controls or electrical or civil or mechanical or piping or the rigging, whatever it is. running these projects, staffing them, running them. I do the selling part of it, like, hey, this is a good fit for us. This is what we do. And by the way, we self-perform a good majority of those trades. So so to your point, for college kids and for high school students, there's a tremendous amount of money to be made in the trades. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, I am fortunate. I got my degree and BP paid for my master's degree, so I'm lucky. Um, have I really used it? Maybe a little bit. I mean, it's been a resume builder, I can tell you that, but I'm not really any smarter than I'm not any harder worker. I'm not any different. It just maybe gave me a little edge on um, somebody that doesn't have that education. But I mean, there is a high demand for like pipe fitters, for welders. Now, I wouldn't really recommend welders. I mean, it's kind of tough on the body, but electricians, fitters, boiler makers, even is there's a high demand, and they make really good money. Engineers, obviously, that's more on the technical side, but uh, yeah, I mean, there's a few more jobs in between there. I mean, I did a little stint when I left BP. You might even know. Do you remember meeting Corey Arendt?
It sounds familiar.
So Corey was a guy, when I ran final assembly and interiors, I had one job position. I think I had 20 managers. And one of the positions there was what they called a spot for the high pot. You remember the high pots?
Yes. High potential. Yep.
Yeah, high potential, meaning
Yes.
that was a slot that they had, that they would do like a 3-4 month rotation for leaders with like Purdue or Harvard, or even UCLA, USC, Stanford, those kind of degreed people that they were training for hire for a bigger position, and they wanted to well round them. They may do a procurement role, they may do an engineering role, they may do a production role, a QC role, whatever it is. They kind of make their rounds. But one of the guys that worked for me, his name was Corey Arendt, and he came straight from college. And while he was a genius, he wasn't very polished with people. So I took him under my wing, and I said, Corey, look, you're gonna have to win these guys over before you're gonna get them to produce. And talking down to them, and that doesn't work. You need
Right.
to, you need to be a little more humble and a little more supportive. And that's the way it's going to have to be. And I kind of took him over around my arm, and he ended up being my top performer. And funny story. So he stayed with me for about six. Hang on a second. I got a client calling in. I'm going to tell him I'm going to call him back. Anyways. Um. Oh, he ended up saying, Chris, man, I want you to run my company when I get my company going. I was like, okay, Corey, sure. You know, well, funny thing, about 4 years later, he was a composite expert, by the way, literally a subject matter expert on aerodynamics and composites.
Right.
He calls me up, and he's whining me and dining me for like 6 months, trying to get me to run this wind energy company. And I was working for BP already, making good money and being slotted for like a director position. I was a senior manager at the time. And he goes, would you be interested in coming down to Huntington Beach and being like the VP of operations? And then separately in Rialto, we're going to have a test center of building these windmill blades. I was like, I don't know a ton about windmill blades, but I'm sure I can learn, and I can motivate people, that's for sure. So I ended up taking that position for him, and it was a startup company, and I got a buttload of stock, and this thing was going to take off. And the differentiator between him and a normal wind company that makes blades is these were um, These were blades that were modular. They come in 3 pieces, and their design was to mold them together to get them to countries that don't have the infrastructure to carry a big blade there. So
Right.
you could put blades put together on site and then therefore create power in these places where normally you couldn't get power. But it didn't, I did that for about 3 years, and that was a ton of fun. I traveled around and got the team motivated and did good. It just the blades had issues breaking. They had engineering and stress and structural issues. So it just became not feasible to build them. I don't think we could get all the bugs quite worked out. And I think some of um, our funding became difficult to get more funding to continue to figure out what it was going to take to get these things strong enough to mass produce them. So we sold it to a Spanish company, Portuguese company. I made a little bit of money, but then that's when I found myself going, where should I go? Should I go back in aerospace? Should I go back in oil? And then I went a total different. I got a headhunters calling me, going, "Hey, how would you like to be a contractor in the oil and gas space? You know, working at the refineries as a contractor, having like 200 people on site, reporting to the client and doing whatever the things that they need done." I was like, "That sounds okay." You know, it was a couple $100,000 a year, and that was I was going, "Yeah, I'll try that." And I've been doing that for 10 years now in little
Wow.
different tools and tweaks and little bit in incremental increases and responsibilities and up to like, basically kind of like executive VP has been my last couple of roles running teams of people. And now I just run myself. I just go out and get tons of business and bring it back. And it's the best thing in the world.
Wow. That's great, man. Did you ever work with or know a guy named Kevin Kuhn? I
What was
did.
that name?
I don't know if you ever worked with him. He was a CAP employee and he worked C-17, but he kind of like you, he went on and on and on, and now he's doing mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, I think you did mention that. And I'd have
Yeah.
to look. I'd have to look him up on LinkedIn and see
Kevin
if I
Kuhn, Kuhn, Kevin Kuhn.
Kevin
Great
Coon.
guy. You get you and him together and you guys would take on the world, man.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I'm still getting companies right now. I just had a phone call today from like one of the presidents of this big company called Trailer Brothers. They do, I don't know how many hundreds, I don't know how many billions a year. They do a couple in construction, saying, "Hey, I've heard that you might be available." I said, "Well, not really, but maybe. I mean, anything's possible." He said,
I'm listening.
"Would you be available Thursday to meet, maybe for a business development role?" They do